Okay, so I'm here today to talk to you about gas for vehicles. We've heard a lot about electric, and I think there's no denying that transport policy is certainly heading in that direction. But gas is something that is here today. I think it is underrated, thank you for saying that. And hopefully I can explain to you a little bit about what gas can contribute to the carbon agenda and also to air quality issues and also to the pocket of motorists as well. So, LPG, gas, propane, it's already widely used as a vehicle fuel today. You can see there some of the statistics. There's over 1,400 forecourts across Britain where you can buy LPG, you can refuel your vehicle. There's around 160,000 motorists already using gas vehicles today. Of those forecourts, 154 of those are located in Scotland. I'll be coming back to that later in the presentation. Something I'll also be coming back to later is that around a third of forklift trucks run using gas today, and that will be important when we come on to looking at its use in the heavy goods vehicle sector. We've already got vehicles running on Scottish roads, HGVs using gas, and I'll show you how we can increase that going forward. Most people know us probably for the blue and red cylinders. That's what people mostly think of when they think about Calor. And maybe also in Scotland, our sponsorship of Dundee United, which is maybe a good or a bad thing, depending on who your team is. Hopefully you'll see from the end of the presentation that gas and Calor gas has a huge role to play in the transport sector. So, we heard a lot in the last presentation about air quality issues and environmental issues. And I think to date, a huge focus in transport has been on lowering carbon. You can see here that LPG has a much lower carbon output than some of the other fuels that are on the road today. These are numbers that were released in December 2014 by the European Union, and you see there around a 20% lower carbon output for LPG as compared with petrol or diesel, and similar numbers for LNG. Importantly, when it comes to air quality issues, LPG also delivers significantly lower SOx, NOx and PMs than petrol and diesel, and that's of massive importance when you look at air quality in Scotland's cities. So you can see here figures from Friends of the Earth Scotland looking at where sites are in your cities that are breaking current NOx limits, and it's the same picture across Britain. There's a huge number of cities that are currently not complying with the air quality targets, and I think we're going to seriously struggle across all of Britain to meet our targets for air quality really much before 2030. So air quality, as we've heard, is a huge issue. I'm going to take you through just a couple of quick case studies. Don't expect you to read this. The case studies are all available in a blueprint document that I have up on our stand in the exhibition area. So if you're interested in seeing how businesses and public sector bodies are using LPG at the moment in their transport fleet, I can give you copies of the blueprint. But you can see here taxis is a huge market for the gas vehicles. Birmingham City Council has actually just been awarded a £500,000 grant from the Department for Transport in Westminster to convert 80 of their current diesel taxis onto an LPG petrol mix. And that is specifically to target air quality issues. That's from the DfT's Clean Air Fund. There are LPG taxis all over the world, and I think in Britain we're just starting to get up to speed with LPG for taxis. In the public sector, so Anglesey, they have 63 LPG vehicles. It's their vans. They use them for highway inspections, road maintenance, waste management inspections, and so on. So they already have a fleet of vehicles running on LPG. And then finally, moving on to the police. Humberside Police Force are running their vehicles using LPG. And a little closer to home, Strathclyde Police have huge experience in running an LPG vehicle fleet. So you can see there just a range of bodies and organisations who are using LPG in their vehicles today. But it's not just about the environmental benefits. There has to be an economic saving as well. I think we've heard today about how there's not just one trigger for people choosing a fuel or a vehicle type. And certainly that is true of LPG. There is a really, really strong economic case for LPG. Back in December 2013, the Westminster Government confirmed a 10-year duty horizon for LPG. So the current rate is 15.8 pence per litre, and that has been confirmed for 10 years. So we know that LPG is going to remain a low-cost alternative to petrol and diesel going forwards for at least the next 10 years. If you look at the current duty rate for petrol, it's 58.7 pence, so there's a huge difference there. And you can see on the slide, LPG retailing around 60 pence per litre at the moment. It's dropping with the decrease in the oil price as well, so where you're seeing the prices at the pump come down for petrol and diesel, same thing for LPG. And you're looking at around about 40% cost savings there, so that's a huge saving for a vehicle fleet operator. You also benefit from reduced vehicle excise duty and the cost of a conversion. If you're going to convert an existing car or van from petrol, diesel to LPG, you're looking at around £1,500 depending on the type of vehicle and the conversion. So if you're travelling, say, 10, 12,000 miles per year, you're going to get a payback in less than 2 years. So the economic case for LPG, we believe, really is very strong. Moving on to the operational case, I talked earlier about the refuelling network. Over 1,400 refuelling points across Britain, over 150 of those are located in Scotland. And I'll move on to that on the next slide. I think the key thing to note here is that the infrastructure for this is already in place. It's existing, it's there today, and it's within easy driving range of most major cities, town cities in Scotland. I'll move on to show you a map, but if you think you're in an area where there is no LPG refuelling infrastructure, come and talk to us. We can put one in at a relatively low cost. You can see here just a couple of vehicles. They're the ones that we have outside today. Hopefully you all saw them as you came in. Please do go and take a look if you have the time. You can see exactly how the conversion kit fits in, where it goes. I think there have been concerns previously about losing boot space and so on. I think if you go and have a look at the Ford Focus out there today, you'll be extremely surprised by how much boot space is retained. I don't think you'd know that there was an LPG kit in there. So I would encourage you to go and have a look at that. But it's not just LPG for cars and small commercial vehicles. We've been moving recently into LPG diesel HGV conversions. That's one of our own national trunking fleet, and we've converted over 20 of our own vehicles to a diesel LPG mix. The way that it works, you substitute a portion of the diesel input for LPG. There's a fuel management system that automatically alters the load between diesel and LPG depending on the type of driving that you're doing and the pull on the engine and so on. You can see there cost savings, payback gain 2 to 3 years, so a really, really quick payback in terms of the investment. And the systems can be retrofitted. That's what we certainly did with all of our vehicles, and you're making savings from day one. For people who are more technically minded, this is what the engine looks like. You can see there on the right-hand side, you've got a small diesel tank and 2 LPG tanks. And the LPG is directly injected into the engine, and it happens automatically. You get a slightly small capacity on your diesel tank, but that is substituted by the LPG range. And another picture of engines. You can see there what the engine injection system looks like. Again, if you've got any questions on this, come and see us. We can show you the vehicles upstairs, exactly how the systems work. Just kind of key stats on this, I mentioned earlier, around a 2-year payback. If you're driving 160,000 kilometres per year, which is kind of average for an HGV fleet, you're looking at saving around £4,000 per year on the fuel costs, which I think is a really significant saving. You're substituting around 25% of the diesel from the engine, so that's where you're making the savings. And the carbon savings are also very good, around 6%. I talked earlier about where you could get LPG. You can see here a map of the LPG forecourts across Britain and across Scotland. 154 forecourts, everywhere from Stornoway to Thurso to Oban. We've even got an installation on the Isle of Arran, so you can see there is a fairly extensive network. And as I mentioned earlier, it can be increased, and this is where the forklift trucks come in. So 30% of forklift trucks in Britain are counterbalance trucks running on LPG. They're supplied via either a direct cylinder supply or via a bulk tank, which is situated on site and refills either the forklift truck directly or a refillable cylinder on the vehicle. Now, this is important because if you are going to convert vehicles to an LPG mix, we can install one of these units at site just a couple of £1,000, and you then have your own supply on site. So there's no need to go and find a forecourt within your area. You can have a bunkered supply actually on site. And when you look at where we currently have forklift truck installations, and this is just Calor, you can see that there is significant coverage across Scotland. We've actually got more back-to-base forklift truck sites than we have filling stations for LPG. We've got over 2,000 across the whole of Britain. So you can see here that the infrastructure, if it's not already in place, could be fairly easily retrofitted. And just moving on to looking at renewable LPG, because there's probably a lot of you sat in the audience saying, well, fair enough, but it is a fossil fuel, and fossil fuels are getting phased out. Okay, so what we've been looking to do is develop a renewable form of LPG, biopropane, and we've secured the first deal anywhere in the world for commercial supply of biopropane from 2016. So a fully 100% renewable gas will be available from 2016. We see biopropane as a long-term strategic option for Calor. We are a fossil fuel. We appreciate the renewables agenda. We want to move ourselves along with that rather than fight against it. There's no point in that. So whilst we're going to have commercial volumes available from 2016, these will be imported from Rotterdam, from a biodiesel refinery in Rotterdam who are producing biopropane as part of that biodiesel production process. We're also looking at developing our own indigenous supply of biopropane and hopefully bringing that to Scotland, currently working with Scottish Development International on that sort of a project. So for Calor, this really is a long-term investment. The Westminster Government has got behind biopropane. It's now included in the Renewable Transport Fuel Obligation, and that applies in Scotland as well. And what that will do is cover the additional cost of production and shipping so that at the end user should not see a difference in price for a fully renewable transport fuel. There are other ways to make it. It doesn't have to be from the biodiesel process, so we're currently investigating those. And there's just an article here from the Telegraph last year. Scientists at Imperial College have been looking at genetically modifying E. coli bacteria and using photosynthesis to power the process to produce biopropane. Now that goes beyond my GCSE chemistry, but I can assure you it's a very exciting development and something that we're following very closely. So just to summarise on the Autogas route, there are economic benefits, there are environmental benefits. It's a proven technology with infrastructure and conversion kits already in place today that have a very short payback, around about 2 years for the average motorist or haulier. And we're going renewable from 2016. But Calor doesn't just do LPG. We also now supply liquefied natural gas. Last year we purchased an LNG company, Chive Fuels, who are in the largest network of LNG refuelling for heating and transport in the country. So that now is under the Calor roof. We have a very strong LNG supply position. I certainly wasn't aware, but 40% of natural gas in this country that goes into our gas grid is imported via ship. And you can see here there's a strong supply position from Northern Europe. So, and Calor, what we do is we pick up fuel and we move it around the country. That's our job. We're in essence a distribution company. So we are able to take LNG from anywhere where it lands in this country, put it into our vehicles and drive it around. So it gives us a very good distribution network. In terms of refuelling for LNG, there are 7 public stations which are Calor owned, which are fully operational. You can see where they're located there, generally on the kind of major trunk routes. We're planning at least 3 new installations in 2015 and further expansion going forward. And anybody with a Chive account can access these. So you have a key fob, we give you training on how to use it, we have your account automatically set up, and this refuelling is available 24/7, middle of the night, middle of the day, anywhere you are, and completely independently as well. In addition to the sites that we own, there's also quite an extensive public and private refuelling network, and you can see here just some of those locations. We are looking to expand this network into Scotland going forward, as I mentioned earlier. What do they look like? Just to give you an idea, these are some of the publicly available LNG refuelling stations that we operate. It's very, very simple to refuel. It's a similar process to LPG, just really is a plug-and-play refuelling technology. These are freestanding and they're independent. However, as I mentioned with LPG, you can also have a back-to-base solution. So you can see here an LNG installation on the right and an LPG installation on the left. There's not much difference. Again, we would suggest if there's a fleet that's operating more than 10 vehicles, depending on the mileage, it's probably worth having an installation at the base, which we would keep supplied. We're also looking to develop a CNG compressed natural gas option, which is probably more suited to shorter journeys, perhaps more urban type driving. In terms of vehicles for LNG, there are dedicated OEM vehicles available today. You can see some of the makes there: Mercedes, Scania, Volvo, MAN and DAF, to name just a few of them. They're currently available on Euro 5 and Euro 6 models are under development at the moment. But if you don't want to buy a new truck, there are existing dual fuel conversions in exactly the same way as there are for LPG. You can see there just a couple of the companies that offer those conversions. As with the LPG conversions, some of the diesel capacity is removed and replaced by an LNG capacity. Don't expect you to read this, but again, this gives you an idea of some of the types of vehicles that you can convert today. Mercedes, Renault, Volvo, all sorts of vehicles. The kind of main commercial operators are all available to be converted. Again, how it works, similar to LPG, you have an LNG replacement tank. There's an automatic switching between the two fuels. There's no difference in the driving, in the performance. You don't know it's happening. It's actually incredibly boring. It just happens automatically. The LNG kicks in when the vehicle's working harder, so heavier loads, longer distances, higher pulls. And again, in terms of the investment and the payback, slightly higher investment per vehicle, around £13,500, but the savings are doubled, so you're getting about £8,000 savings per year. And again, that's because there is a higher diesel substitution rate, and you're getting around 7% carbon savings. We think probably payback in under 2 years for a vehicle driving around 220,000 kilometres per year. And this isn't a new technology. There's already companies out there who have switched to LNG or LPG mix. So just some examples there: Morrison's and Noble Foods are using LPG, DHL, Muller-Weissman and Stobart are using LNG. Waitrose uses a mixture of both across its transport fleet. So that's hopefully giving you a quick overview as to how gas can be used not only from cars through to light commercials, right the way through to HGVs, delivering cost savings and also environmental savings. Like I said, we do have the vehicles outside, so please do come and have a look if it's something that you're interested in. Thank you.